It's very wonderful to join you for this meeting that you're having on seminary education and curricular reform for our ecological future. This is so important. I'm delighted you're working on it, and I hope we can work together into the future. As you may know, John Grimm and I did conferences at Harvard in the 1990s on world religions and ecology, but we also worked in that same period in seminaries, especially in a project called TEMIC, the Theological Education to Meet the Environmental Challenges. And that was supported by the MacArthur Foundation and others. And we worked with Union Seminary in New York, the Chicago seminaries, and the Claremont Graduate School, where the seminary exists in California. And throughout those conferences and the books that emerged, both at Harvard and in this TEMIC project, we were trying to suggest that something new has got to come forward. And we know the challenges are great. So we sympathize with what you're dealing with in this conference and forward. But let me just make a few suggestions, perhaps, of some of the things that we can do together or we can offer for your work, hopefully. One is, at these conferences, we were trying to say all the traditions, and Christianity and Judaism and Islam, have got to think forward, as they have historically and over time, of retrieving, reevaluating, and reconstructing their traditions. In other words, what are the resources from their scriptures, from the Bible, from the Quran, that will lead us towards an ecological consciousness and conscience, a sense of ethics in these traditions for the regions around the world that are infused by these belief systems. So retrieving through scripture, through tradition, through commentary, through the mystical tradition, and bringing those forward in new and fresh form. These are wellsprings of human wisdom, as we know, and we can't simply ignore them and charge forward with just philosophical ethics of intrinsic value and instrumental value and so on. We need these wellsprings from the world's religions, and we need them especially in seminaries to train the next generation who are waiting for guidance on this. So the retrieval, reevaluation, and reconstruction is a way that we can present to our faculty and our administrators how we're going to be doing this. And clearly, commentators in the world's religions have been doing this for centuries. So to be practical then, we also have many resources on the Forum on Religion and Ecology website, and we'd love to include some of the work that you're doing. And this, incidentally, refers to long bibliographies that are annotated on all the world's religions. What are the books? What are the articles? We're trying to get people access to what's already been done in a scholarly way, but on the ground as well. We have engaged projects up there of what's happening in different bioregions, the efforts in the Middle East of Friends of the Earth Middle East to protect and restore the Jordan River with the three great Abrahamic traditions. So we're trying to highlight how the traditions are doing this, both in terms of their religious resources, but also on the ground. Now, let me say, in seminaries, just as in every academic institution, we have these challenges. Does the administration get it? Does the faculty get it? Do the students get it? And generally, our experience is the students are so ready for this, or at least a certain percentage of them are very eager to become ministers for the environment, to become healers, to become people who will help those who are mourning the loss of species, of of bioregions, and so on. But also this wonderful conjunction of ecology and justice that's been emerging for a long time. And we have a series from Orbis on ecology and justice, Cry of the Earth, Cry of the Poor, which the papal encyclical has clearly highlighted for all of us. And that is a watershed moment for this movement for seminaries to bring together people and the planet. The issues of justice that have been so prominent in the Abrahamic traditions are now aligned with justice for the earth. So we need then to bring that broader message to the mission of our institutions. So how are we going to do that? I think it may be helpful to get this built into the mission statements or into statements for the development of the seminaries, that we have a commitment as religious people, as religious professors, that these institutions must have a primacy of ecology and justice and peace, for that matter. But some mission statement, it might be just a few lines, that orients the institution, that commits the institution and resources to this area. That's crucial. Now, secondly, I would suggest, again, to be obvious in a way, that all future hires, or as far as we can, that many future hires of faculty, junior or senior positions, have this as part of their commitment, if we can do that. So the hiring of faculty is crucial. The training of faculty is crucial because we're in this in-between stage. Do we have enough trained faculty to do this? So I would suggest a third movement would be we must have faculty development seminars. They might be summer seminars, a week long or a weekend or whatever, where we actually can give a little bit of money, and this involves grants and so on, but to incentivize faculty to read in eco-theology, to read in environmental ethics. Or, as we've done here at Yale, we have a School of Forestry and Environmental Studies. We've got the Divinity School. We've had people come who bring the science of climate change, of biodiversity loss, of water pollution, and teach the seminaries, seminarians and faculty and ministers from abroad. What are these issues? We can do this now, though, through even online education. So I would suggest there's two parts of the faculty development. One is looking at our own traditions for the resources, but the other is getting up to speed on what are the key environmental issues that we're facing. And around the world, this is becoming more and more critical. And in all of this, the faculty development piece, we have to reassure one another. We can never know all the issues. We aren't scientists, but we can reach across the divide of disciplines and say we need one another. And I think I'll move to a fourth point here. I think the new alliance of science and ecology on the one hand, of religion, of values and ethics on the other, is coming into being so that we have a new opportunity to do this work. And that's partly because the climate change science hasn't communicated by graphs and models. Scientists realize more and more that human behavior matters, human values matter, and these issues of people and the planet, of justice, of the poor suffering from the effects of climate change, the religious communities can help articulate what is happening and put before us the effects for future generations. So we have to have a confidence that those of us studying religion and theology and scriptures and ethics have something to contribute. We can be conversation partners at the table in terms of meetings on these environmental issues. We're welcomed into the discussion as never before. And I think as we have a fifth option, and of course that is across the curriculum. Can we say, your course in the Bible that's been oriented to a certain way of studying the Bible, can we actually begin to incorporate something like the critique of Lynn White in his historic essay in Science in 1967, the historical roots of our ecologic crisis? As we know, he's suggesting that Judaism and Christianity in particular, with the dominion passage in Genesis, may have led inadvertently to some of the problems that we're facing. Now, it's important to know that Lynn White went on to suggest that Christianity has very important resources for addressing the environmental crisis. He identifies Francis of Assisi, and we now have Pope Francis doing this work. He identifies the Benedictine tradition, and he even comes to a whole notion of an ecological democracy where creatures have value, intrinsic value, within Earth systems, within an Earth community. So a Bible class can begin to take this up and deal with the huge discussion that arose from just that single article. In the same way, an ethics class, even if it's a social ethics class, can begin to integrate one or two major books or readings that are addressing these issues. So I think across the board, from mission statements, from hiring of faculty, to this integration of ecology and justice that we're seeing, to the sense of confidence that we can't know all the problems, but we can draw in the science communities, the ecologists and so on, to help us understand some of the basic science. And to say we need to integrate this as we can across the curriculum. But finally, we really need to say this is not just an add-on. We need people who will take this forward. We need to empower faculty who want to work in this direction. And we need to include students in this because their generation is facing problems that are inconceivable and still on the horizon. But one of the things we need to say to them is this is an intergenerational handshake. We understand you're inheriting a diminished world of ecosystems that are radically changing, of the problems of not enough fresh water and even food crises. So these are issues of food, of water, of air, of soil. They're very basic issues that transcend politics, but that come into our religious traditions, which have a very powerful sense of the sacredness of the elements of creation. So as we find our voice into reevaluating, retrieving and reevaluating and reconstructing these traditions, we can offer a source of hope for these students and for future generations who want to make a difference, who want to be empowered to participate in what Thomas Berry called the great work of our time, of becoming mutually enhancing humans within an Earth community. That's our challenge, and I wish you well in this conference and into the future. Thank you very much.